You know, there's something about growing older that changes how we see the world. The small moments become sweeter, the laughter a little richer, and the time we have with the people we love feels more precious than ever. But sometimes life gives us subtle hints, gentle whispers, that things might be shifting in ways we didn't expect. Maybe you've noticed your spouse spending less time in their workshop, the one they've tinkered in for decades. Or perhaps your lifelong friend, the one who never missed a Sunday phone call, has started letting your calls go to voicemail. These changes can feel confusing, even lonely, especially when we don't know what they mean. Hi there, I'm from Wisdom of Aging, and if you're here today, I want you to know something. You're not alone. Many of us walk this path, watching someone we cherish change in ways we can't quite put into words. Maybe you brushed off these shifts as just part of aging, but deep down you wonder, is there more to this? Should I be paying closer attention? That's why we're talking about 5 subtle signs your loved one may be in their final year. These aren't meant to scare you, but to empower you. Because when we notice these signs, we can respond with love, grace, and no regrets. Let me share a story with you. A few years ago, my neighbor, Margaret, a vibrant woman in her 80s who'd host monthly book clubs, suddenly stopped coming to our gatherings. At first, I thought she was just busy. But then her daughter mentioned she'd also stopped gardening, something she'd done every morning for 40 years. When I visited her, she smiled and said, "Oh, I'm just tired, honey." But that tiredness didn't go away. It was a quiet shift, one that slipped under the radar until other signs started adding up. Margaret passed 6 months later, and her daughter later told me she wished she'd understood those early signals sooner. Not to change the outcome, but to savor their time together differently. That's why we're having this conversation. Awareness isn't about fear, it's about love. So let's walk through the first 2 signs together. The first sign, losing joy in what once lit them up. We all have things that make us feel alive. A hobby, a routine, a passion. For your loved one, maybe it's fishing at dawn, baking pies of grandkids, or even their daily crossword puzzle. But when these joys start fading, it's more than just slowing down. A sudden, sustained loss of interest can be one of the earliest and most overlooked signs. Let's say your dad, who's always been the first to suggest a family barbecue, now shrugs and says, "Let's just order pizza." Or your aunt, who never missed bingo night, starts making excuses to stay home. It's easy to chalk this up to moodiness or fatigue, but when someone steps back from multiple things they've loved for years, it's worth noticing. Here's why this happens. As the body begins to slow, the energy required for even simple joys, like socializing or cooking, can feel overwhelming. It's not that they don't want to engage. It's that their reserves are quietly depleting. Think of it like a lamp dimming gradually. You might not notice a change until the room feels darker. What can you do? Meet them where they are. If they no longer want to go out, bring the joy to them. Watch their favorite movie together, or simply sit with them while they nap. Presence matters more than activity. The second sign, the weight of unshakable fatigue. We all get tired, that's life. But there's a difference between needing an extra nap and a fatigue that seems to anchor them. You might notice your loved one struggling to stay awake during visits, even if they slept all morning. Or they may mention feeling heavy, as if their limbs just don't want to move. This isn't ordinary tiredness. Prolonged, unrelenting fatigue, the kind that doesn't improve with rest, is the body's way of redirecting energy to its most essential functions. Think of a tree in autumn. As the seasons change, it stops sending nutrients to its leaves and focuses on sustaining its core. My friend's father, a retired teacher who used to walk 3 miles daily, began spending entire days in his recliner. His doctor found no medical cause, but his energy never returned. Later, they realized his body was conserving strength for what mattered most, being awake for short, meaningful moments with family. What can you do? Respect their rhythm. Visit in shorter bursts during their brightest hours, often mornings. Bring a cozy blanket instead of planning outings. And don't take their sleep personally. It's not about you. Why these signs matter. Now, I need to pause and say this clearly. Noticing these signs doesn't mean you're giving up hope. It means you're choosing to love with clarity. When my grandfather stopped tending his roses, a passion he'd had since the 1950s, we initially teased him about getting lazy. But once we recognized it as a sign, we shifted. We brought the roses to him in vases, and he'd smile, telling stories about each bloom. Those became our most cherished days, a transition rooted in love. If you're seeing these signs, your heart might feel heavy right now. That's okay. Take a breath. What you're doing, learning, prepare to love more deeply, is a gift. In the next part, we'll explore 2 more subtle shifts, including changes in how they eat and connect. But for now, I'll leave you with this. The greatest comfort you can offer isn't fixing or reversing, it's witnessing. Sit with them, hold their hand, let them know they're not alone. And remember, friend, you're doing better than you think. You know, there's a tenderness to the stage of life, a quiet recalibration of what matters most. It's like watching a sunset slowly deepen. The colors change so gradually you almost miss the shift. But if you pay attention, there's beauty even in the fading light. In our last conversation, we talked about 2 subtle signs your loved one might be nearing life's final chapter. Losing interest in lifelong joys and carrying a fatigue that never lifts. Today, we'll explore 2 more signs that often follow, and more importantly, how to respond with grace when the unspoken needs to be heard. Let me start with a story about my friend Clara. Her mother, Rose, was a woman who measured love in meatballs and marinara. Every Sunday, she'd cook enough pasta to feed the neighborhood, laughing as she stirred the pot, saying, "If you leave hungry, it's your own fault." But one day, Clara noticed her mom's freezer was full of TV dinners. "What happened to your famous lasagna?" she asked. Rose just shrugged. "Too much work." At first, Clara thought it was a passing phase. But over time, her mom began eating less and less. A few bites of toast, half a banana. It wasn't until later that Clara understood. This was her mother's body whispering, "I'm redirecting my energy." The third sign, when appetite fades and food loses its meaning. Food isn't just fuel, it's memory, comfort, tradition. So when a loved one starts pushing away their favorite dishes or saying, "I'm just not hungry," it can feel personal. Did I cook it wrong? Are they upset with me? But here's what's really happening. As the body prepares for its final transition, digestion becomes a lower priority. It's not about the food. It's about conserving energy for heart, the breath, the quiet work of existence. You might notice, craving simplicity. Suddenly, they want only bland, soft foods, oatmeal, applesauce, or broth. My uncle, a lifelong steak lover, asked for vanilla pudding every day in his final months. Eating less, but more often, small, frequent snacks instead of full meals. Forgetting to eat, not out of neglect, but because hunger signals fade. What can you do? Let go of the clean plate mentality. Pressuring them to eat can cause stress. Instead, say, how about just 3 bites? Focus on hydration. Offer ice chips, popsicles, or their favorite herbal tea. A spoonful of honey can soothe and energize. Make meals sensory. Even if they're not eating, light a cinnamon candle or play Italian opera, the soundtrack of their childhood kitchen. The fourth sign, the slow unspooling from conversation. Have you ever sat with someone you love and felt like they're drifting just out of reach? They might stare out the window during a chat or trail off mid-sentence. It's easy to think, are they bored? Did I say something wrong? But this withdrawal isn't about you. As energy dwindles, staying present in conversation becomes a monumental task. Take my neighbor, Hank, a retired history teacher who could talk for hours about the Civil War. He began shortening our visits. "I'm tired, kid," he'd say after 10 minutes. One afternoon, I found him sitting silently in his garden. When I asked what he was thinking, he smiled faintly, just listening to the leaves. Later, his wife told me he'd started doing this often, sitting quietly, as if soaking up the world's whispers. Why does this happen? Mental fatigue. Forming words and following conversations requires energy they no longer have. Turning inward, many begin reflecting on their life, making peace with memories. Sensory overload. Even gentle chatter can feel overwhelming. What can you do? Embrace comfortable silence. Sit with them while they nap, hold their hand, or hum a familiar hymn. Ask one meaningful question. Instead of "How are you?" try "What's your favorite memory of us?" Then let them answer in their own time, even if it's days later. Use touch. A warm hand on their shoulder can say more than words. The hidden gift in these changes. I won't sugarcoat it. This is hard. Watching someone retreat from food and conversation can make you feel helpless. But here's the secret. These shifts create space for a deeper kind of intimacy. When my grandmother stopped speaking, I thought I'd lost her. But one day, as I rubbed lotion on her hands, she looked at me with such clarity and squeezed my fingers 3 times. Our old code for "I love you." In that moment, I realized connection doesn't always need words. This is your invitation to listen with your heart. Notice the squeeze of a hand, the softening of their face when you enter the room. Release the need to fix. You don't have to make them eat or talk. Just be their safe harbor. Honor their pace. They're not withdrawing from you. They're journeying inward, and they need you to hold the space. A bridge to what's next. If you're here, you're likely walking this path right now. And I want you to know how brave you are. This isn't easy, but it's some of the most important work we'll ever do. In our final part, we'll explore the last sign, the one that often surprises families the most, and how to transform these bittersweet days into a tapestry of love without regret. But before we move on, take a moment. Breathe. If tears come, let them. This is love in its rawest, purest form. And remember, the fact that you care this deeply means you're already giving them everything they need. There's a moment in every sunset where the light seems to linger just for a heartbeat before it slips below the horizon. It's fleeting, but if you're watching closely, you'll see it, a final burst of gold that paints the sky in warmth. In these last moments with our loved ones, there's often a similar glow, a quiet urgency to leave behind pieces of their light. That's what brings us to the 5th and final sign, one that's both tender and profound. They start giving things away. Let me tell you about my Aunt Marjorie. She was a woman who collected teacups, delicate, hand-painted ones from every corner of the world. For years, they sat untouched in her china cabinet. "Too special to use," she'd say. But one summer, she began handing them out, one by one, to neighbors, friends, even a young nurse who visited her weekly. When I asked why, she smiled and said, "I want them to have stories, not dust." At the time, it felt random. Now I realize she was gifting us tangible memories, heirlooms of her heart. The 5th sign, the art of letting go. This isn't about decluttering or practicality. When someone begins distributing cherished possessions, they're often stitching their legacy into the lives around them. You might notice sudden generosity. Here, take grandma's ring. It's always looked better on you. Practical preparations, insisting you know what the will is or how to access important documents. Storytelling, attaching memories to objects. This pocket watch? Your grandfather carried it on your parents' wedding day. My friend's father, a retired carpenter, spent his final weeks building small birdhouses for each of his grandchildren. "So you'll always remember my hands," he told them. Those birdhouses now hang in gardens across the country, weathering storms but still standing, just like his love. Why does this happen? In their wisdom, many sense that time is growing short. Giving becomes a way to affirm relationships. "You matter to me. Here's proof." Ease the burden. Ensuring loved ones aren't left with difficult decisions. Leave a whisper themselves. "When you see this, think of me." How to respond. Accept gifts graciously. Even if you don't need another teacup, say, "Thank you for trusting me with this." Ask for stories. What's your favorite memory of this? Record their voice if you can. Offer alternatives. If they're overwhelmed by possessions, suggest, "Let's take a photo of this together." The memory matters more than the thing. Weaving the signs together. A tapestry of love. Let's pause and look at the full picture. The loss of interest, the unshakable fatigue, the changed appetite, the quiet withdrawal, and now this gentle giving. These aren't just signs of an ending. They're invitations to love more deeply. I think of my neighbor, Mr. Thompson, who taught me this lesson. After his wife passed, he told me, The last year was our hardest and our most beautiful. We didn't talk much, but she'd squeeze my hand when the sun hit the trees just right. That squeeze said more than words ever could. This is a gift of awareness. It lets you trade expectations for presence. To stop asking, why aren't they fighting, and start whispering, I'm here, however you need me. What to do when you see these signs. If you're here, you're likely standing at the sacred threshold. Here's how to walk through it with grace. Release the script. Forget shoulds. There's no right way to navigate this. Only your way. Practice being overdoing. You don't need grand gestures. Sit, sing, share silence. Honor their autonomy. Let them choose how they spend their energy, even if it's sleeping through your visit. Forgive yourself. You'll have moments of impatience, sadness, even frustration. That's okay. Love isn't perfect. It's persistent. A message for your heart. I know this is heavy. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel lost. But please hear this. Noticing these signs doesn't mean you're losing them. It means you've loved them enough to pay attention. And that attention? It's a lifeline. When my grandmother was dying, I agonized over not doing enough. But on her last coherent day, she patted my cheek and said, You stayed. That's all I wanted. That's the secret. Staying, not fixing, not solving, just staying. Your next steps. As we close, I want to leave you with 3 actions. Breathe. Right now. Take a deep breath. You're carrying a lot. Let it settle. Reach out. Share your story in the comments below. Have you noticed these signs? How did you respond? Your words might comfort someone feeling just as alone as you do right now. Subscribe to Age of Aging. We're here to walk with you, not just through endings, but through all the messy, beautiful moments of aging and love. The light that remains. Friends, endings are hard, but they're not the whole story. Long after the last breath, love lingers. In teacups, birdhouses, and the quiet habits we inherit. My aunt's teacups still sit in my cabinet. I don't drink from them. I just open the door sometimes and remember her hands, steady as she poured my first cup of Earl Grey. So wherever you are in this journey, know this: love doesn't die. It changes shape. And as long as we tend to its memory, it keeps warming us like sunlight stored in the bones of the earth. Thank you for trusting me with your heart today. Until next time, keep holding space for the ones you love and for yourself.